Hi, Google Beach. How's everyone doing? My name's Frances. I work at the United Nations World Food Programme, and I have the honor of moderating this panel. And I'm going to start by bringing up our fantastic panelists, the YouTube sensation, the woman you've just seen in that video, Julian Mercado. Come to the stage. We have Jennifer Rizzi here from Ogilvy, Anthony Yell from Sapient Razorfish, and Michelle Hillerman from the Ad Council. Come on up. Hey. So, it's not very often that the United Nations collides with this world. Like, believe it or not, this isn't our kind of day-to-day bread and butter situation. But a couple of years ago, in 2016, something quite amazing happened at Cannes Lions. And that was the world's largest communications and media companies coming together to launch Common Ground. And Common Ground is the pledge from all of these companies to support the United Nations in our global goals for sustainable development. Now, I don't need to tell this audience that there's some pretty bitter rivalries among some of those entities. But nevertheless, this year they came together. We partnered with Google and YouTube and said, you're not just doing things individually, you're all going to work on a campaign together for the global goals. And what did that look like? We had an amazing 3 days at YouTube. We had an amazing team from Google supporting us, and these companies put some of their best and brightest talent in a room with the United Nations to really crack this nut. And in March, we launched Little by Little, and that's the campaign we're going to talk about today. In just the last 2 months, 70 million views on YouTube, over 2 billion impressions for the campaign as a whole. We don't want to get into this as a case study. We're looking at what's next on this panel. So, Anthony, let me start with you.
Sure.
Because for us at the United Nations, when you get the largest holding companies together, plus the power of Google and YouTube, we didn't want to give them something easy. We said, OK, we've got 17 goals, 17 issues, and 2 billion young people,
something
under
like
30, something like that.
Yep.
Multiple markets.
Multiple markets.
Go crack that nut.
Sure.
How did you get there?
Well, it was actually an interesting personal journey for me because I was in Cannes about 2 years ago, and I was in the Palais, and they announced that Ban Ki-moon was going to be on stage with all of the holding company execs, and I was just like, whoa, that never happens. This is impossible. So I was just like, I'm going to stay and watch what happens. And that was the formal announcement around Common Futures, Common Grounds, and it was really exciting to be part of. And then being part of Publicis, Maurice stood up and was like, oh, we're going to support the SDG around food waste. And I was like, fantastic, because I happened to be working with Michelle on Save the Food with the Ad Council. I was like, brilliant, everything's going to work out. And during the process of working with Publicis to figure out how we could help extend the support, we ended up getting invited to this Google Hackathon, which was in New York, and we sent a junior team that represented, the youth and effectively Gen Z. And they spent 3 days in a highly collaborative manner with other teams from all of the different holding companies, Ogilvy, Havas, Digitas, Huge, I mean, the list kind of goes on, monitored by Wyden and Kennedy, and they came up with an idea in 3 days, which was actually originally called Start Here. And really what it was focused on giving people, specifically Gen Z, the ability to identify opportunities to help. And the insight that we uncovered was that Gen Z, whilst it is the largest generation in human history, which I guess is vigorously debated in the YouTube comments, struggle with understanding how to help. They think that the world challenges are probably too complex and too big for them to actually have an impact on. So what we wanted to do was effectively show that everywhere around you is all of these opportunities to actually take a stand, do something. So we took that kernel of an idea and realized that we probably couldn't run with it because there were other naming issues and so on and so forth. So then we spent a considerable amount of time, and Roberta from Google would remember this, effectively thinking about how to actually rebrand it. And we ultimately came out with this notion of little by little, which we really liked because effectively it was a verb. And we felt that that reflected the actions of every little action that everybody could take, adding up to something much, much bigger. So that's where the core idea came from. And then we then transferred that into an anthem film which helped sort of evoke sensibility of it, and then worked with Ogilvy on setting up ambassadors and other UCG content that allowed people to see these little 6-second things that they could do that would allow them to have an impact.
Amazing. And I think what we've seen with the impact on this campaign is it really is driven by citizens. There's been some fantastic support from our partners, but we've seen folks picking it up, taking it into their own life. And influencers like Julian here, recently called YouTube sensation, Instagram influencer. You're known for your fashion, you're known for your social, you're also known as an activist. What was it about this campaign that made you want to get on board?
I mean, thank you for that lovely introduction. I think personally, with my peers and people who I hang out with, we want to help the world. I think because of social media, we're given the ability to see what's going on in the whole world on our phones, super quick. But like you said, I think we get overwhelmed by how much there is to be done. So as soon as I heard about this, I was like, oh my God, it's perfect, because they're just tiny steps that we do pretty much every day. But if we focus on it to like cut showers and use metal straws and pretty much save the planet, you kind of feel like a superhero, you know? And everybody wants to feel like a superhero. So I was like, yes, I'm in, I'm game. I would love to be a part of this.
Amazing. And your video on YouTube has had over 70 million views since its launch in March. People were just going, yeah, read the comments.
36 million. 36 million.
It's up. 70 million views.
Okay.
Latest numbers are in. 17 million views. So Jen, talk to us a bit about YouTube platform, because we've looked at, this is the largest generation in history. Julian just said you've got content coming at you constantly. Folks want to take action, but they don't really know where to start. Why was YouTube the right platform to launch this campaign?
YouTube was the right place to go because it's a natural, sorry for my voice, I have a really bad cold right now. YouTube is just the natural place to reach Gen Zers. And I think that from an overall communication perspective, you know, every communications campaign that you do, you customize it to reach your objectives. And, you know, this had to be a little bit different because we had to really target this audience in a different way. And we knew engaging folks like Julian was the right way to do it. So when we had our launch moment in March, we knew we had to get folks like yourself, like Julian, on board and others, because this generation likes to listen to other influencers. So we knew a traditional press campaign was not going to work. But we took it a step further. We identified the right influencers. We produced some great content with our partners. And then we took the influencers and had them talk to traditional media. So having influencers talk to places like the Associated Press, or talking to Nylon, or even going on Cheddar, which is a site that a lot of next generation leaders go. I mean, we had to figure out a way to blend traditional as well as next generation type media tactics. And I think that the reason this worked is because, yes, we had amazing influencers like yourself, but also the power of our networks that came together. I mean, I think, you know, you always say, like, you know, these agencies and holding companies, you know, there's always these rivalries, but I've seen nothing but collaboration on this project. And I think that's part of the reason it's been successful. And as part of our launch, we even had a story that we secured talking about the partnership, in addition to the work, to really just kind of hopefully lead by example of what others should be trying to do.
Mm-hmm. And it really has been amazing from the United Nations perspective. We're a bit more familiar with bringing together warring parties, maybe different types of actors. But to actually all work on one campaign, I don't think it's ever been done, right? There's nothing that kind of at this scale has been seen. So let's turn to Michelle then, because Michelle, you're with the Ad Council, yep. And I want to ask you about this partnership. You guys are doing amazing things. You bring together folks for good in advertising all the time. Is this a model that you're seeing grow? Are there people putting aside their differences? What does partnership look like in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the framework of competitors coming together, putting their hats aside, and really rallying around big social issues is really kind of a new model that we're seeing. Our Love Has No Labels campaign around diversity and inclusion is a great example. We have brands like Coke and Pepsi and Unilever and P&G, like age-old competitors that have, checked their baggage at the side and rallied around this to make social change. We're seeing coalitions come together around gun safety, opioid prevention, really big social issues that people are realizing they can't tackle alone. And if they harness their passion and come together, they can really use their superpowers for good. I love that you said that, because we say that a lot at the Ad Council also. So this Common Ground partnership is a fantastic example of how you can just be more powerful if everyone kind of sits at the table together and is on the same track.
Amazing. And we're seeing that tie in with how citizens are using digital tools and social media to build those coalitions themselves.
Yeah.
We think of the last 6 months, the March for Our Lives, campaigns like this that have just come seemingly out of nowhere to have real impact at the policy and political level. Julian, you have a really diverse group of followers. Your influence probably spans more types of people and groups than a lot of other influencers. Was there anything for you getting involved with this campaign that surprised you about Gen Z?
No. I definitely, the video was done beautifully. It was edited, honestly, perfectly. I even was like, wow, this is amazing. It took me by surprise. But it didn't surprise me because, like I said before, I think we all want to be part of something big, and especially now in the political state we're in at the moment. I've never been to so many marches in my life than in the past 2 years. And, I think we want our voices to be heard. We're sick and tired of how things have been going. So being a part of this, it was, some people don't want to go to marches or, don't really want to be in the forefront of things, but they do want to help and they do want to be a part of something big. And especially with this campaign, you can be part of something big. You can be part of a collection of people who also want to see the world change for the better. We do live in this planet all together. Whether we want it or not, we live here and we have to, this is our home and we have to treat it as if. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Round of applause for that. Come on. Absolutely. So Jen, you did a ton of research into Gen Z and exactly what Julian's saying here. How are folks organizing themselves differently from previous generations? What did you find in that research, and what's the key difference between Gen Z and millennials?
This is a very open generation. It's a generation that wants to support things and do things that actually are about giving back and good, and they're all very accountable. They're accountable themselves, and they also hold other people accountable. So we knew whatever we did needed to be very authentic. It couldn't just be me sitting at Ogilvy drafting messages, and then I send them to my partners and saying, oh, this is going to work. It was, we had to really research folks like yourself and others who were the right people to bring to the table, because the authenticity needed to be there or this wasn't going to work. And I think part of the reason, and I know we have a slide, I don't know if we want to show it now, but the results, like what we've shown is the level of the authenticity, like it honestly played off. I mean, we literally did like 3 or 4 interviews, and this is what happened. Because the video was so good, we had the right message, we had the right people talking about the message. That's why it was successful, and that's why we're all excited about what's next. Because when you have the right recipe, and this generation is very much about believing in causes and trying to be accountable and also holding other people accountable, you can do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. And it's happening anyway, right? I mean, that train is out of the station, and young people are doing it, whether we're catching up with them or not. So we'd better be there. Michelle, you're doing a ton of stuff at the Ad Council with Gen Z. You're looking at these issues, these new campaigns. Any tips or tricks from what you guys have been doing and seeing works with this generation?
Yeah, I mean, we work on a few different issues with the audience. We're talking about STEM and girls and bullying prevention and underage drinking and driving. And, like Jen said, we know that traditional media is not where these guys are. They're gobbling up information so quickly, taking action, moving on to the next thing. And so looking to bring in authenticity, as well as really the influencer piece and voices like Julian is exactly the way that we would approach it. We have a program, Creators for Good, where we've brought together over 100 influencers in the last year that have worked on 20 causes and 40 million views, and really kind of lending their voice to bring the credibility to the issue, which has been fantastic. So
Amazing. Anthony, last question. You get the last word on
Sure.
it. It's all down to you.
Okay.
Little by Little, launched in March, 70 million views on YouTube.
Yep.
Julian's out there. She's got her friends. Yara
Super.
Shahidi.
Yep.
This thing has steam. So what's next for Little by Little?
Well, in my mind, I think it's an open call to arms for everybody here and everybody across all of the different networks, and quite frankly, anybody that wants to get involved, to demonstrate ways in which they can contribute these little micro moments that can actually fundamentally add up when you multiply them by the 2 billion people and hopefully more that go beyond Gen Z that could actually start to have an impact on the various different SDGs. So from our standpoint, from Publicis' standpoint, we're committed to, continuing to support this campaign, continuing to support it more of a movement and a platform than specifically a campaign. And I would offer, I know there's a session after this, right? I don't know whether that's open invite. Is it open invite? I might have just messed up, but
There's a couple slots for the people with the best ideas in the audience. Come and workshop the next phase with us.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's it. I think that it's just in its beginning phases. And I think we've got an awful lot of work to do because there's an awful lot of work to do. So.
And Publicis have been an amazing partner. Ogilvy have as well. Jen, from your side, what does it look like the next couple of months?
I think we have to just, as you said, we have to take all of the momentum we have, the luncheon session we're going to have next, and there are some open seats if people want to come, because we're going to be right over there, just brainstorming what's next. But now it's about continuing to build the influencers. In addition to folks like Julian, who else we want to invite to the campaign, what other partner groups we want to have. I think it continues. What showed this first round of our efforts showed that the influencers are key. So we have to continue to expand and get their followings into the campaign. So I think the next couple of months are going to be about media partnerships, new influencer coming to the table, and honestly continuing to produce great content.
Amazing. And Michelle, you can't get off the stage without saying that the ad council's with us on the next one after all of that.
Well, we work with Anthony already on our Save the Food campaign, like we said. So we're going to continue the conversation and look how we can help to support the effort. Because it's a really simple movement. Obviously, anyone can get involved, like you said. And I think adding voices, whether it's individuals, brands, media companies, is just going to make it bigger and more successful. So
amazing. Well, this is it for our wonderful panel here. Thank you all so much for being with us. Come and harass them. Come and chat. We want to hear from you. Thank you all.